All right, so the next team up is the New Orleans Pelicans. We were very, very far apart on this team. I
Yeah.
have them really, really, really high. So Lakers fans are just going to look at what I just said about their injuries and be like, "How you have the Pelicans high?" I'm hoping for a healthy Pelican season and just had them as a team fighting for home court advantage in this playoffs, where Simon and Vegas were a little bit more tepid, but still having that kind of 16 to 17 range overall in the sort of NBA. Not 16 or 17, and there's not even that many teams in the conference, but very more middle of the pack based on what they accomplished last year. Last year they finished with the 21st ranked offense and the sixth ranked defense. Very impressive to finish 42-40.
Yeah, probably the
And
inverse of what a lot of people were expecting, but
yeah, and started and doesn't it's a weird team to another one of those teams where it's kind of like a tale of two parts of the season because they started off just on fire until Zion got hurt. They were like a top
yep.
five defense, a top five team on both sides of the ball, and then Zion went down, and they really didn't recover from that, which was
Yeah.
strange because of how well they played without him the year before. They had this heroic run, and we were wondering if that was going to happen again, and it really didn't. But anyways, let's see what's changed between last season and this season for the New Orleans Pelicans. What kind of off-season moves are we looking at in New Orleans?
Honestly, not a ton. I mean, they drafted Jordan Hawkins at the end of the lottery. A lot of people really liked him as, one of the better catch and shoot 3-point players we've ever seen in college. Kind of fitting he comes out of UConn because, like previously, the archetype for that guy was, of course, Ray Allen, also out of UConn many years ago. So yeah, in that mold, and then they signed Cody Zeller just for some big man depth, I suppose. And then the one other thing they did this offseason that seemed to just explode a lot of people's brains was that Herb Jones opted out of the fourth year of his rookie deal, and he signed an extension for $56 million. And then I forget if it was Woj or Shams, but someone said, "Oh, if he had extended next year, he would have been eligible for over $70 million." And that seemed to confuse a lot of people. But basically, it's a win-win situation. Herb Jones gets his money and he gets security a year earlier, and the Pelicans get to duck
So
the first apron.
you're saying people were upset that he didn't sign for more or he didn't wait to sign for more.
Yeah, I think it was confusing why he didn't play out his rookie deal and then extend to next year.
I mean,
But
Herb
I mean,
Jones
for
is
I mean,
amazing.
if you're playing on a rookie deal and you have the option to up your salary from, I'm not sure what that would be, but he was a second round pick, so it wasn't a lot of money, right? All the way up to like 11, $12 million this year, and you get that long term security as well. I mean, most players are going to take that. So
I also think that if Herb Jones played another year and didn't figure out more of an offensive role, the money that would have been waiting for him at the end was not going to be that $70 million deal. Like,
yeah,
I agree that this is a win for both of them. Where it's like it's possible Herb Jones. It's possible that this deal becomes a big deal for the Pelicans, but also like this protects Herb Jones from like if he ends up just being a pure defensive specialist, like those big contracts are not always there for that type of player. So I know that he's
yeah.
like, he's a younger guy, so you anticipate linear growth, but his offense is still a big question mark. So for him to lock in a really solid chunk of change for time, I think that makes sense because he can't shoot it all right now. And the after starting the season really good as a cutter, it took one scouting report adjustment to just nullify Herb Jones for the rest of the season. They had this great offensive thing going that was quite influential in the league where I forget what the name of like they were just running into they were cutting into their passes basically. So every
Yeah.
single player on their team, rather than wait for the pass, was starting their cut. They basically gave themselves a running start on every single action, and it made them really dynamic. It made them very dynamic, and it gave some of their lesser offensive players some real impact and value, and made them really fun to watch. And then that main source of rim pressure in Zion Williamson, like arguably the best source of rim pressure in the whole NBA right now, got injured again, and then we were looking at a completely different team. But I still think New Orleans and New Orleans fans should feel great because Brandon Ingram played 45 games and Zion Williams played 29, and this team still finished above 500. We're looking at a
Yeah.
ridiculously deep team here. Like just they've got multiple really good players at almost every position.
Both
And
of us
just
are really excited about Dyson Daniels. I mean, that's one of their bright spots from last year. I thought was just like how good he was right away.
yeah, and he also had some injury struggles of his own. So
Yeah, no, this team was really snake bit last year.
yeah, but also, has New Orleans ever not had a snake bitten injury team? Can you think of one season where New Orleans just was like normal and healthy? I know this is like a young, like we have to go back to like,
1993.
um,
I'm just, I'm just
before
kidding.
they
Yeah,
existed.
it's been a while.
Yeah, like it's been like Chris Paul era. And even then, like Tyson Chandler fell apart with injuries. Like people hate
Yeah,
on the AD era, or that like that team was never able to go. Just like, did you like go look at the games played year to year by Jrue Holiday and Tyreek Evans and Eric Gordon?
yeah.
I mean,
Everyone was hurt all the time. Yeah,
Ryan Anderson, DeMarcus Cousins, like it basically ended his career the moment he got to New Orleans. Like they brought in tons of talent on that team, and everything just died. So at some point, like this franchise is just cursed, or it's going to flip, and they're going to have a good healthy season. And I think a good healthy season from New Orleans means they're one of the best teams in the NBA. I think like they looked at last year, they not only um, are we hoping for Zion and Ingram to play together this year and be the two best players in that team? But they've got other potential like stars waiting in the wings. Trey Murphy the third looked
yeah, that's true.
incredible at times last year as a shooter, as an athlete, and as a perimeter defender. And like you already mentioned, Dyson Daniels has a whole lot of potential. Larry Nance is coming back healthy as well, and he's a guy that really unlocked lineups for them last year when he was healthy. I just look at this roster, and if it's healthy, I just think this is a really, really, really good team. But again, it's always a health nightmare in New
Yeah,
Orleans.
and
So
I think Jordan Hawkins has potential to crack the rotation on this team. I don't know. It's hard because they have like so many young players, and especially kind of in the backcourt and the surrounding wings. I suppose really where they lack is maybe like the big men positions. Although
yeah,
I am a Larry Nance fan. I mean, I like their their position where they're at with him and Valanciunas for the most part. I mean, this team was like surprisingly very good on defense last year, and I think part of the reason why Herb Jones got that contract is he was a big part of it. Like New Orleans was like the best 3-point defense in the league last year, and yes, variance always has something to do with that, right? I mean, teams are just not going to shoot well against certain teams on small sample sizes on occasion, but like also they do have some of the best personnel in the NBA for guarding the 3-point line. In addition to that,
just so much length and so much twitchy mobility that they were able to, even at times when they would have multiple defensive liabilities on the floor at the same time, they'd have ways of like kind of just swarming with length and not letting, like I thought New Orleans, like when we talked about them in a season preview last year, is like, well, how's New Orleans going to hide Zion and Valanciunas and CJ and
yeah.
like
Well, it
they
turns out you
just
don't really need to protect the rim if you can keep people from getting there.
yeah, or just making it like it was so hard to really like with so much kind of disruption around them with the length of whether it's like between Herb and Ingram and Najee Marshall and Trey Murphy and Larry Nance and then Jose Alvarado at the point of attack, like having
Yeah,
having two or three of those defenders on the floor just made it like there's just so many arms like in the paint and then getting out of the 3-point line. It was just very chaotic to attack. Like, well, we really want to attack Zion, but I can't get to him because there's all these like arms swarming in the way. Like, I can't get through the forest to get to the sort of prize there. And Valanciunas, I think it's kind of he can be a vulnerable defender in a bad situation, but he's very dutiful. Is like he's
hmm,
definitely gonna be in the spot and he makes good decisions. He just doesn't he can't really move and recover at a high level. They're also bringing in another good college defender from 2 years ago who missed his rookie season or was injured. Will now start his
yeah.
rookie season. That's
EJ Liddell.
Yeah, and he was a like monster defender in college, tons of
Hmm.
versatility, and is another guy who could play some small ball center for them, and has some a lot of the things that people were really excited about Jarris Walker this year were things that people were kind of saying about EJ Liddell the year before, and then and then he
Well,
split huge in the
I
draft. Not
pushed
saying they're the
back on
same
that a little
player,
bit.
but
Yeah, there's a massive, just kind of athletic profile difference between those two players.
yeah, but the strength and the mobility to guard different positions, I
Yeah,
think EJ Liddell has a little bit of anyways, I just like he might not even play at all, but I think it's at least notable that he's coming back. I also think it's notable that their two-way player has one of the coolest names in the NBA. I don't
Ariane
really know how to.
Simon.
Yeah, that's just a cool name. It just sounds like he's
Yeah.
some sort of like airship captain or something like that, an airship captain of renown. um,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
guess it'll be.
I think the best thing about New Orleans, and again with all the injuries they had last year, I mean, it's just hard to have a consistent rotation. But they do have a lot of depth. I mean, they go deep with just like solid players. So this isn't. I mean, and that's also that unlocks a lot of options as well. So this isn't
Mhm.
going to be a team that you can confound like in a certain matchup. This isn't a team that you can like figure out necessarily.
Yeah.
At least their offense maybe. I think the main reason why their offense kind of struggled last year is they kind of have a lack of really high level playmaking. I mean, CJ McCollum does his best. Dyson Daniels is a good passer, but he's like a little bit slow on the take and he's a bit mechanical. And then they have a lot of guys who aren't necessarily like playmaking is their first priority.
Yeah, and I've got a this leads quite nicely into the one point I want to talk about them is I think Brandon Ingram has another level to unlock, and that is like being able to. He's shown big flashes of playmaking and shown big
Mm-hmm.
flashes of scoring, um, but he doesn't seem to put it together. It's like he's either lanky DeMar DeRozan or he's like Ben Simmons or something like that. Like over his career, he hasn't really leveraged those two, like he hasn't synergized those two skills. But you see the passing vision, you see the length that he's able to use in a lot of situations to sort of like throw harder passes and see over the defender.
Yeah.
um, sometimes he's in score mode and sometimes he's in playmaking mode, and I think if he can put those things together, there's a whole other level that Brandon Ingram can unlock, and maybe make up for some age related decline to CJ McCollum. He struggled so hard last year. Like I
Mhm.
was excited for like full time point guard CJ for a whole season out of
Well,
Portland,
he
and
had a horrendous shooting start to the season, and he recovered
yeah,
a little bit at the end of the year, but like he just couldn't make a shot for like the first month of the year.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's like you draft certain players in fantasy and they're holding you back all year, and it's hard to let that go. And CJ McCollum was that for me last year. Just
Yeah,
checking his shooting stats every game, it was like, oh no, what?
yeah,
2 for 17, like what? um but yeah, so he should bounce back. He's not that old yet. He's because this is his age 32 season, I think so, and he's never been a player super reliant on athleticism. He is a smaller guard. There's ways in which he could drop off, but I wouldn't be surprised by a bounce back for CJ, and I'm rooting for it.
yeah. I just think so much of their season this year hinges on Zion. I mean, it's unfortunate that they have to be reliant on him because there is a lot of talent on this team outside of Zion. But like to be honest, they don't. I'm not sure if they have a piece on the team that is like dominant in any sense outside of Zion Williamson.
Yeah, everything's solid around Zion. Zion is
Yeah,
100% the point of like the tip of the spear. He's what's collapsing defenses. He shreds defenses. Like he really is like a torpedo. And like I'm picturing those bullets in Super Mario. They just like come
yeah,
across the screen, and like he just there's absolutely no stopping him. And when you have this like demolition ball just crashing defenses and all these guys that are capable of making plays off that, it's a beautiful thing to watch. When they don't have that, it's more a collection of solid players who can do a lot of things. But even in that, like I think if Ingram can stay healthy and Trey Murphy can carve out a bigger role and keep making progress on that, there's
Mhm.
ways for them. I would, even if Zion doesn't play 80 games next season, I would love just not a season ending injury, just sort of.
Yeah. No, I mean, I hope Zion is healthier this year. I hope the Pelicans are do well, and make the
Yeah.
playoffs this season. Like I'm always rooting for that. But yeah, I was a little bit lower on the Pelicans for you just because than you were, just because I don't necessarily want to bet on Zion having excellent health when that isn't really something that we've seen up to this point in his career.
Yeah. I wanted a couple of optimistic hot takes this season. The Pelicans are one of them for me. The other team is one we're going to get to in the next episode. But any
Yeah.
final New Orleans thoughts before we move on to the next team?
No, I don't think so. I mean, even if Zion gets hurt, and I kind of baked that into my projection of this team a little bit. I mean, I still have them finishing over 500. So I mean, the talent is there. Like the floor should be pretty high. It's just a matter of where the ceiling goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I have Zion playing 55 games. Like my like hope for Zion is like 55 games and healthy in the playoffs. That's like that would be
Yeah.
a really good outcome in my mind. Anyways,
Yep. That's all our Pelicans thoughts.
yeah.